In 1991, something big happened in the world. The Soviet Union fell apart. Out of that breakup, 5 new countries were born. These nations are Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. Together, they make up Central Asia, a region right in the middle of the huge Asian continent. You might have heard people casually calling them the stands in the West. You know, it used to be thought of as a place with huge potential. It's been an important place for thousands of years, especially because it was right in the middle of the famous Silk Road. But Central Asia now stands as a paradox of size and strength, spanning vast deserts, towering mountain ranges, and ancient civilizations. It begs the question, how did a land so extensive, with a heritage stretching back millennia, find itself in a position of such relative insignificance on the world stage today? Imagine a network of roads connecting China to faraway places in the south and the west, running through the amazing landscapes of Central Asia. Back in the 13th century, the busiest spot for trading was Merv in Turkmenistan. It was like a shiny gem along this trade route. And in places like Samarkand and Bukhara in Uzbekistan, life was bustling with culture, art, and stunning buildings that amazed travelers from all over the world. Now, let's jump ahead 800 years. Central Asia still holds echoes of its amazing past. Long ago, big empires like China, Mongolia, and Persia wanted to control it. But fast forward to today, things are different. Central Asia is important for the world economy, but it's not as powerful as it once was. Even though Central Asia has lots of valuable resources like oil and gas, it's still struggling to stay important. Why did this place, once so strong and influential, fade into the background? Come with us as we uncover the mystery of Central Asia's past and present. We'll talk about how geography and important events from the last century have played a big role in the economic downfall of Central Asia. Let's take a closer look at Central Asia's geography. Central Asia sits in a really important spot on the map. It's almost like a fortress, surrounded by Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. But there are no big oceans nearby. Instead, they're stuck between 3 powerful countries, Russia, Iran, and China, all trying to manipulate things for their own benefit. Geography plays a huge role in a country's success, defining agricultural potential of a country, providing access to its trade routes, and keeping enemies away. That's what geography does. It decides if a nation will thrive or struggle. Let's talk about Central Asia's land. Almost 60% is desert. About 70% of Turkmenistan is Karakum Desert. And when it comes to farming, well, only a tiny 20% of Central Asia's land is fertile enough to grow crops. Just like that, the western part of Uzbekistan is mostly covered in desert. This makes life tougher for them compared to nearby countries with better soil, like Kazakhstan. In northern Kazakhstan, the soil is rich and perfect for agriculture. They grow plenty of wheat there, benefiting all the countries in Central Asia. Now, most of Central Asia's population lives in the southeast part, because that's where you'll find 2 big rivers, the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya. These rivers flow into the Aral Sea, which is on the border between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Now, you might be thinking that the land near these rivers would be good for farming, but that's not true. In reality, there's a big mountain range called the Altai Mountains in the south and east of Central Asia. It stretches from China to Mongolia, all the way to Central Asia and Russia. Because of these mountains, farming isn't possible in those areas. Only about 20 to 25% of Central Asia's land is suitable for agriculture. That's why hardly anyone lives in big parts of western Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. This explains why even today, half of Central Asia's population resides in rural regions. They live isolated from the rest of the world, raising animals and using their milk and meat to survive. But when you look closely at Central Asia's map, you'll notice the Aral Sea at the western border. So, why don't the Central Asian countries take advantage of it? To understand this, let's dive into history. Actually, most people living in Central Asia today are Turk. They moved here about 4,000 years ago from places like Siberia, northern China, and East Asia. These people established their empires here, ranging from the Black Sea to Mongolia. Then, in the Middle Ages, the area from the Amu Darya to the Sir Darya came under Muslim control. These are the same areas known today as Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kazakhstan. Then, in the 13th and 14th centuries, the Mongols seized control of all these areas, and for many years, Central Asia remained under Mongol control. Eventually, when the Mongols' power weakened in the 16th century, Russian and Chinese empires tried to control this region. And finally, in 1917, the Soviet Union took control of the entire region. Their first move was to split the 5 ethnic groups: Kazakhs, Uzbeks, Tajiks, Turkmens, and Kyrgyz into separate countries. This shows how well the Soviet Union was aware of ethnic realities, as this is very important for the fate of a country. Although the Soviet Union managed to divide this area and started developmental projects. But due to communist ideology, it faced serious clashes with the local people. For quite some time, there was a challenging situation because most of the population in this area was Muslim, and the communists were against the religious ideologies. This led to many Central Asians migrating towards Afghanistan, the Middle East, and even the subcontinent. The Soviet Union felt that this kind of situation would increase resentment among Central Asians, making it difficult to control them. So, they decided to ease the religious tensions. Now here comes a fascinating fact about Central Asia. Did you know that today, Central Asia is the biggest cotton producer globally, thanks to the Soviet Union? But all this extensive irrigation for cotton cultivation didn't just bring prosperity, it brought trouble too. To irrigate those cotton fields, the Soviet Union built large canals stretching from the Aral Sea to Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. The cotton was transported from this region to Russia using rail networks and then exported to the rest of the world. Unfortunately, this extensive canal system led to the Aral Sea gradually drying up. Fast forward a century later, and the consequence is dark. What was once the world's 4th largest lake is now a haunting desert. For about 40 to 50 years, the Soviet Union made a lot of money by selling cotton from Central Asia. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Central Asian countries faced new challenges. Their factories and businesses were in bad shape because of the old communist system. Moreover, they experienced significant social and political instability after 1990, like the civil war in Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan in 1990, and then in Uzbekistan in 2005, which resulted in considerable casualties and severe political unrest. Now, Central Asia is still caught in a tug-of-war between powerful countries. China and Russia buy most of Central Asia's natural gas for cheap prices through gas pipelines they themselves developed. So, there's not much demand for Central Asia's gas anymore. Because of this, Central Asia is like a puppet, used by bigger countries for their own gain. This paints a grim picture of Central Asia's struggles, making its economic situation even worse. Right now, it doesn't look like Central Asia can stand on its own. Maybe one day, its geography will help it become a big trading hub again, but that's not happening anytime soon. Will Central Asia ever regain its power like in the old Silk Road days? Or will it always be controlled by outside forces, leaving it weak? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Cheers!